be bold, take chances. What you think is impossible is now possible. And what I mean by that is, as leaders, there's all these challenges about constraints, time, money, investment. The best investment you can make right now is investing in tooling, especially automation and AI and agentic platforms. While you may take a small hit up front, it'll pay dividends, 3, 6, 9 months from now, by unlocking your organization to move faster than it's ever moved before. And so my advice to any leader or aspiring engineer at this point in time is adopt the new tooling now before it's too late.
Welcome to Software Leaders Uncensored. I'm Steve Taplin, and every episode I sit down with engineering leaders to understand what's actually working, what's breaking down, and how to be successful within software organizations. After 180 plus episodes, conversations and patterns keep forming, and that's what this show is really about. Today, I am joined by Aron England, who is the Chief Product and Technology Officer at Accruent. And among many challenges we're going to talk about getting the product and design teams comfortable with AI tooling, how engineering is moving ahead, and getting everybody else as part of the SDLC up to speed. Aron, welcome.
Thank you. Great to be here.
You bet. Well, let's start off. Tell us about your company.
Yeah, so Accruent is a leading provider of integrated solutions for the built environment. And we help organizations manage the entire life cycle of physical assets, from real estate planning to lease management, visitor management, facility management, real-time monitoring of assets, anything that has to do with the physical environment. We provide enterprise software helping organizations to manage and move forward with those types of concerns.
Fantastic. And so you have been with the organization a little bit more than 5 months, and you're also the CPTO as opposed to just Chief Product Officer or CTO. Tell us, how did you land your current role? Tell us how that worked out.
Yeah, so a little bit of background on me. I've spent time at a couple of Fortune 50 companies, small size, early stage startups, mid-sized public and private companies. I think my claim to fame is I was an employee like 9 at DocuSign, their first product manager. And so I have many years of experience within the industry. And so I was working for an AI company that was a pioneer in speech-to-text technology. And this amazing opportunity came along at Accruent to help them move forward and become a growth company. So that's how I ended up at Accruent.
Now, in the software leadership world, roles are very volatile. And last time I checked, it's not really easy to just apply on LinkedIn on a job posting to get a job. No doubt you were ultra qualified, but how did you get in the door?
How do I get in the door? I guess just being authentic and genuine with my beliefs, my philosophies matched really well with the company and where they were going. And so I think that it just comes down to, as a technology and product leader, it's just understanding where the market is, how to apply frameworks and processes, and just being bold to try to move the needle forward with the organization. And so it just happened to be a great conversation. And I think for me, what's really important, it's probably important to other leaders as well, is we spend more time with our colleagues than we do with our own family and friends. And so the question, right? It's true. And so the question for me is, does my leadership team and the company share the same principles and values that I do? And if so, then it's really easy to get engaged, so to speak, at the work environment. And so that's how I ended up at Accruent. And it's just that we share similar beliefs about how to lead and how to create amazing technology that customers love to use.
Now, what is the work model at the company? Are you guys in office, hybrid, remote?
Well, we are primarily a remote organization at this point in time. We have our company headquarters are in Austin, Texas, but we literally have people distributed all over the globe, which creates international challenges of trying to get time zones and people together to collaborate. But we do have a goal of trying to get people back in the office.
Gotcha. And how large is your product and engineering organization?
Yeah, so we have about 200 folks within product engineering and design. We currently service 10 different products in the market. And so it's a pretty diverse engineering organization at this point.
And are they located around the world? What's the primary geographies?
We have a pretty heavy presence in North America, but we literally have people just about everywhere in the globe. We have a main development and an office center in Brisbane, Australia. We have engineers in the Netherlands and the UK, all throughout Europe. Yeah, so even in Brazil. So we have quite a large geographically dispersed workforce and organization.
So tell me how you deal with the time zone challenges with such a worldwide organization there. Do you not sleep?
I try to sleep. My days can be long from 6 a.m. till 7 p.m., depending on where I'm meeting with the teams. One of the things that we're trying to do is we're trying to align our organization to regions and time zone centers, and to reduce that overlap of communication between teams, especially our Australian organization. It's been a challenge. We generally only have 4 days a week that we can really overlap due to the time zone differences and in that mode, we only have a couple hours a day, and so that's been particularly challenging as an organization.
Gotcha. So tell us about the kind of products you're building.
Yeah, so we're building enterprise SaaS software, and we do have some legacy client server type of software as well that we're managing. But we're trying to service all aspects of what's called the built environment. So if you're driving down the road and you look around, you're probably experiencing one of our customers in some form, whether it's the mining company that built products that went into your catalytic or mined the materials that went into your catalytic converter, to the retail locations, to the power lines that are transmitting power. We virtually have customers in every industry around the globe. We have over 4,000 customers at this point in time. And so we're building products that are helping them manage all aspects of their physical environment, from site selection for retail locations, lease administration and accounting, asset management, work order management. We even have products that if you've ever been in an office and you see the iPads on the meeting rooms that you can book, we allow our customers to manage their internal spaces, including meeting room management, event planning. So anything that has to do with the physical world, we have software that helps our customers be more efficient.
Gotcha. Now, I know before the show, you were telling me that one of your industry challenges is that a lot of your products are being used by people in the field that aren't that technical per se. What engineering challenges does that bring to the table for you?
Well, it brings a lot of challenges. I'll give you an example. I met with one of our mining customers in Australia about 30 days ago now, and their workforce is I guess older, non-technical. They have Wi-Fi throughout their mines, and what was amazing is their main shaft in their mine is about 19 miles long, and they're adverse to technology, and they turn the Wi-Fi off. And so the question is, well, if we're a SaaS-based business and solution, how do you deliver the service when they're turning the Wi-Fi off? And so it's creating unique challenges where we're hearing more and more that they're looking for offline modes in some cases to help them manage their business for various reasons. One is situations where the workforce is averse to technology, but more importantly is we're in industries where Wi-Fi just isn't available. If you think about remote regions from a mining perspective, secured radiological sites where Wi-Fi can't penetrate through the walls, we need to be able to service those environments. And so it's creating a unique challenge for us of how do we deliver a SaaS-based service in this hybrid online offline mode.
Have you figured that one out? That's a good
Well,
challenge.
yeah, we're beginning to figure that out. And so the real question is the amount of data that our products and services have within it that are required for somebody to do their job. We can't possibly load all of that data in cache on a device. And so the question that comes to hand is, well, what is the right amount of information to make available offline? And then when you do have service availability, how do we do real-time syncs with that data? So we haven't quite solved that problem, but that's something that is very unique and a big challenge of how do you run a SaaS-based service in an offline mode.
Now, do you have any compliance or regulatory things that hit your clients, your industries?
Well, just the typical GDPR, in country data sovereignty type of issues. That's predominantly the issue that we face. We are in healthcare and pharma life sciences, And so they have very unique security profiles and protocols they're looking for data protection and security. And so, yes, we have, if there's an industry and there's standards and regulation, we're facing it in a very diverse way at this point. But the main challenge that we face is in a distributed type of environment. How do we make sure that for our customers in the EU that we are adhering to GDPR and data sovereignty regulations?
Gotcha. Well, now let's talk about your journey here and tell me your view of the CPTO role, Chief Product Technology Officer, as opposed to those being split separately.
Yeah. So what's unique is typically there's silos between engineering, product, and design. And so, how do we break down those silos? And so, from an operating model perspective, one of the benefits of bringing those two roles together is you have the ultimate tiebreaker. Now, I'm always a fan of empowering teams and pushing responsibility and decision making into teams, but it's inevitable that there will always be friction and some tension along the way, and you need some tiebreakers. And so, not only does it allow myself and Accruent to create a cohesive strategy for how we marry the business concerns and operating needs of the company with the technology plans, but it also creates efficiency through how we organize from a software development lifecycle perspective as well.
Well, at least you know the Chief Product Officer and Chief Technical Officer won't be fighting.
No, they won't. Well, sometimes they do. It's interesting how you manage those two concerns because there are challenges between the two, and the question around speed and velocity and trade offs on security and all the concerns that go into engineering, and then you have the product and market side of it looking for quality. They're looking for predictability. They're looking for the outcomes from a customer perspective. And so getting all those aligned sometimes can be challenging.
What lessons have shaped your leadership style?
Oof, wow, all kinds of lessons. I guess the biggest lesson for me in my career is around emotional safety. How do you create emotional safety within teams so that they can unlock themselves and do their best work? I have a rule I call the 7 out of 10 rule, which is just try to get things right 7 out of 10 times. Most people react and go, "Wow, a 30% failure rate, that's huge." Well, the reality is that if you take a look at most software companies, most of them fail. And so if you're hitting a track record of 7 out of 10 times, then you're killing it. And so what that does is it creates emotional safety and space for people to be bold, take risks, and just make sure that they're data informed, data led, and making those bets that they're placing. But in general, the creating that space for failure is super important within technology.
And let's face it, with how fast AI is changing and evolving, tech teams are certainly nervous about their jobs, their roles, and how things are going. So I published a book last year called "Fail Hard, Win Big," and it's my story of how you learn from failures and how it needs to be encouraged. Because good, bad, or indifferent, you learn a heck of a lot more from your failures than you do your wins. And you don't see a lot of product and engineering leaders promoting that. I love it.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you think about what AI is doing for us today, which, in software development, maybe you develop a new feature, a new product, and it may take you weeks or months to get that solution to the point where it's a minimum viable solution that you can start rolling out in a beta with customers. Well, now with AI, you can take that weeks to month cycle down to hours and days, and in some cases minutes. And so
I mean,
the ability,
creating prototypes has changed the game.
yeah, not just creating prototypes, but creating multiple variants of that prototype. There's infinite choices of how you go to implement something and be able to bring multiple variants of a solution and then and do testing and research with customers. It's incredible how quickly organizations can move with AI now.
So tell us, within your organization, how does code get from your developer's laptop to production, and where do things sometimes break down?
Well, let me step back and go even further left with you, which is we're trying to fully embrace AI across the full software development lifecycle. So the first step, or it is with the product managers themselves, which is how do we get them to use AI to help them write not just the requirements, but using agentic workflows and agents to convert that into specs that then get handed off to the designers as well as the engineering team. The next step is how do we get designers to embrace tools so that they can go from traditional designers to maybe design engineers, where the tooling is creating some codes for them, especially on the front end. And then from there, then how do we take the agents and let the agents code the software? And so that's creating unique challenges of how we do the coordination, the orchestration to get to the point where we have a continuous delivery pipeline to bring all three of those facets into code and be able to release very quickly to our customers.
Historically, the bottleneck's always been, the developers take a lot of time to code. And with AI agents assisting that, it's more about getting the rest of the SDLC up to speed on that. The bottlenecks are definitely shifting.
We're experiencing that now. So we've developed some very sophisticated agent workflows. So we have agents that can do three things for us now. The first is bug fixing. And so we literally can just point our agent's workflow at a Jira. It will reproduce the issue. It will go through and do root cause analysis. It will come up with multiple strategies to resolve the issue. It'll do code reviews, all the test automation, all the typical things. We also have agents that are antagonists to check the work of those agents. So we have a completely automated bug fixing workflow. We have agents now that are helping us develop new features. And so we have some client server technology. We're using agents to do a lift and shift to go from a client desktop app to build a full web SaaS app from that perspective. And then the third is the traditional AI embedding into our product experiences and workflows. And so if you think about all of those things coming together and orchestrating the outcome, it is a real challenge. And so now our engineering team is outpacing product and design. And so the question is, well, how do we shift the AI further left to make sure that our product and designers are leveraging tooling that allow them to get 10 to 100x faster than they've been in the past, so they can catch up with our engineering team.
We were talking about this before the show, and I know with my designers, they were kind of set back how easily prototypes are put together and, how do they keep their artistic touch to it? And at least an approach we've taken is coaching them of, all right, let's get these prototypes together, but then you lead the design elements within the prototype, within the AI. How do you want to see buttons? How do you want to see this? And, we've seen resistance, but that they come around quickly.
Absolutely. So there's a fear of adoption, especially from product and designers. They think they're going to lose their craft and their creative license. Well, the reality is creating the prototypes is a faster path to testing and user feedback. So giving them those tools allows them to get the outcome that they're really searching for faster. So the amount of turns they can get, the different variants of user interfaces, and what it really comes down to is how do you get them to take the craft and the love of the art of what they do and marry it up with the UX and the patterns to make sure that we're developing and delivering solutions with just extreme usability so that it's really self-evident, fast, and easy for our users and our customers to adopt our solutions.
So in 2026, within product and engineering, as companies are growing, would you say fear of adoption is one of the hardest things to deal with?
I don't think so. I think we've hit a tipping point where I think it's now a fear of not adopting. Is as people and you reach out to your peers and your friends and you're evaluating what's happening in the market. I think now the fear is being left behind. And especially as an individual, as an engineer, a designer, and a product person, how do you have the skill sets to take you not just through 2026, but beyond? Is you have to be incorporating AI and mastering that in addition to your core craft.
So what do you think's the hardest part of that for teams?
I think, well, tell me more. What do you mean by the hardest part for teams?
As your product and engineering team grows, as everybody is looking for more productivity, specifically integrating AI into the different features is, challenges you're seeing, whether it's teams being disconnected, whether it's just keeping up with AI in all stages, whether it's production issues that maybe aren't being caught with not enough human in the loop with the AI agents you're using?
Okay, yeah, good question. So I think we're addressing the biggest fear is do the black box of what's happening with AI, and it can evaluate so much code so fast. And our AI agents create all of the test cases, all of the tests, the automations behind it. And so we have humans in the loop to review as a last step. But I think that the challenge now is the individuals keeping relevant on their core skills, because so much of what they're producing is now in a black box. And so if you do run into an issue, how do you still have expertise to start creating the theories about where the issue may lie? How do you maybe you might need to create a new agent to go do discovery because your current agents aren't uncovering the root cause? So I think the challenge moving forward within teams isn't just about coordination. It's also about keeping the domain knowledge of the core concepts and theories that drive engineering, design, and product in the first place.
How are you guys dealing with tech debt these days? Especially, you mentioned you have some older legacy products with the newer ones that you guys are creating. How are you attacking that challenge?
Yeah, we're attacking it through agents. We have our system reliability engineering agents now that go out and look for issues. If you think about things like you have libraries that get out of date, and those become emergency tech debts at some point because they fall out of end of life and out of service, and suddenly you're faced with a disruption of trying to retire some tech debt through library upgrades, as an example. And so we're finding that AI is becoming a benefit from tech debt, because now we have agents that can go address very specific types of tech debt, like I just mentioned. We're also beginning to experiment with embedding AI into the products themselves so that they can listen to logs and look for anomalies that are happening, and then tie them with our other agentic workflows so that the bug resolution agents, once they get the notification that something has become unstable, they can start doing root cause analysis, do the bug fix, do a pull request, humans in the loop to verify, and then it can fix it before it even becomes a problem for the customer. And so we're applying that same type of pattern and approach to tech debt as well, which is why have humans toil over the unfun work of tech debt retirement when you can have agents do it for them?
It's so it definitely sounds like you guys are attacking AI aggressively, implementing it everywhere you can.
Absolutely. It's how we're going to differentiate. It's how we're going to become more lean. It's how we're going to create a moat for ourselves as we move forward. And the other benefit is, um, I think it creates a healthier culture within the organization. Everybody wants to feel like they're involved in innovation, and there's no clearer time than the present to innovate through AI. And so it's also helping with motivation and career development. And so there are some other benefits in addition to the obvious of moving faster and out innovating our competitors. It's actually helping our employees feel more valued and acquiring different types of skills for them in their own career development.
So, with both product and engineering falling under your realm, what friction points are you still seeing? Even though they all roll up to one leader, it's kind of like, sales and operations want to hate each other for some reason in a typical company scenario. What friction points are you still seeing, even though it all falls under your realm?
Yeah, I think it's the definite. Even though AI can do a lot for you, it still comes down to just basic problem and needs analysis, the jobs to be done from the customer, and converting them into a vision, a plan, a strategy, and requirements. And so, while AI can do a lot for you, it cannot communicate context. And so the friction point is when we do bring folks together, it's that sharing of context and understanding of what needs to be delivered, how it needs to be delivered, and then aligning them on the outcome of velocity, predictability, all those types of things. It's just now we have a new set of problems around coordination that we didn't have, that I guess were there previously. But with the pace of how quickly code can be developed, now we have a different form of coordination through it. So I think the challenge is communication still within teams. As I'm speaking out loud, it's the irony I think of automation that the human element of communication is still a bottleneck for us.
So, most companies have big, large backlogs that sometimes are not always cleaned up and keep growing. How are you guys trying to keep your backlogs clean and attacking them in the right manner and reprioritizing when needed?
Well, great question. So we still have to do the manual work of prioritization and value prioritization based on market need. I call it impact radius. When we're making a decision on a bug or a new feature, what's the impact radius from a market and a customer perspective? So that work still needs to be done throughout the backlog management lifecycle. But I do think offloading some of it, I know this has been a heavy conversation we're having, but things like the bug backlog, we're burning that faster than we've ever burned the backlog previously. And bugs are nasty things that impact customers and their happiness and their satisfaction. Often an area that is difficult to manage, and it's not fulfilling work in a lot of cases. And so we're able to automate a lot of that so that we can now focus on feature development and innovation in different ways, especially with how we're taking AI and embedding it into the application and the user experiences. So still a problem, will always be a problem, no matter how much AI there is, because you still need to prioritize against value and market need.
Well, it definitely sounds like your organization is operating in the top 10 percentile out there as far as moving things forward, integrating AI everywhere you can, keeping the communication going. Here's an off the wall question for you. So, having interviewed now over 180 software leaders, a trend that I often keep hearing is that as teams continue to grow in size, many times engineering velocity is slowing. Have you seen similar, or do you have any opinion on that?
Yeah, I think it's yes. That is a typical cycle. I think what we're seeing is we're bending that curve at this point, which is with automation and tooling, we're seeing more velocity from our engineering counterparts. And I think it's what we spoke about just a few minutes ago, which is as you start shifting left and you can get the bottlenecks of requirements and design unlocked, then you can match that up with the traditional development pipelines and life cycles. You get through more throughput. So now that's giving us the opportunity that we can make a business decision, which is can we get more done? Can we innovate? Should we bring on more people taking advantage of the automation so that we can outpace and leapfrog our competitors? Do we maintain our current spend and investments, but still get some more output? Do we have the opportunity where we can get more bottom line pull through by not backfilling attrition when it happens and becoming a leaner organization? There are just so many opportunities for product and technology leaders now. We're starting to see the curve bending the other way, which is as we're adding more people, we're not seeing a decrease in velocity and throughput that typically comes through just organization communication and lags that happen.
I often refer to it as the coordination tax.
Yeah, yes.
More people, more teams, more meetings.
Absolutely. And so I love the term coordination tax. We're not seeing the coordination tax. We're seeing it diminish at this point.
So, your organization sounds like it's running very fine tuned. Fast forward, if you didn't change anything from what you're doing now, and your company continues to grow like it has, what'll break first in the next 12 to 24 months if you don't change anything you're doing now?
If we don't change anything in the next 18 to 24 months, good question. I need to pause here for a second to think about this.
That's
Uh,
okay. It's my
um,
job to ask some good questions.
yeah, this is a hard one. I think what will break is our ability to focus because through automation, it allows you to maybe take a look at shiny objects that you shouldn't be looking at in the marketplace, maybe chasing issues for customers or what you perceive as a market need that really isn't there, you fall into the fallacy of maybe broadening your portfolio when you shouldn't broaden the portfolio. So I think the one thing that would break in the next 18 to 24 months is that we try to do too much through the automation and the gains that we're seeing. And that defocus could be damaging.
That's a great answer. And, you've implemented so many of the things that I will say not everyone else has, that it is forcing you to look at that in a different way moving forward. So, great answer. I like that a lot. All right. Last question, Aaron. If you were to give one piece of advice to another engineering leader out there who's about to go through what you've been through, what would it be?
Be bold, take chances. What you think is impossible is now possible. And what I mean by that is, as leaders, there's all these challenges about constraints, time, money, investment. The best investment you can make right now is investing in tooling, especially automation and AI and agentic platforms. While you may take a small hit up front, it'll pay dividends, 3, 6, 9 months from now by unlocking your organization to move faster than it's ever moved before. And so my advice to any leader or aspiring engineer at this point in time is adopt the new tooling now before it's too late.
I love it. I love it. Aaron, thank you so much. Appreciate you sharing this info and getting uncensored with us. That's it for this episode of Software Leaders Uncensored. If you're leading an engineering organization and the patterns we're surfacing resonate with you, hit subscribe because these conversations keep building on each other. I'm Steve Taplin, and see you next time. That's a wrap. Another great episode of Software Leaders Uncensored. Thank you guys so much for listening. I really appreciate it. It's a lot of fun doing this show. I love talking with great tech leaders. As a side note, if you're interested, check out my new book, Fail Hard, Win Big. This is the story of how I built 30 companies, failed on 20, and turned 10 into multi-million-dollar wins. The common thread with all of them was custom software. Also, if you need software development help out there, my company, Sonatify Technology, we deliver world-class software development engineers out of Latin America. We have a solid track record of helping companies launch better products and faster. Thanks again for listening. Appreciate it and appreciate you.